Hey, this is Ben from MetricFire, and I'm going to show you how to monitor a Kubernetes cluster using Telegraf as a daemon and forward metrics to a hosted Graphite account. Kubernetes has exploded in popularity and has become pretty widely used, so it's really important to have visibility into the performance of your clusters. So I'll show you how to easily collect Kubernetes metrics and use them to create custom dashboards and alerts. So to follow along with this tutorial, you need a few things, including an active Kubernetes cluster, the kubectl command line tool with a properly configured kube config file, and that allows kubectl access into your cluster context. You also need a data source to send your data to, which is where MetricFire comes in. So I'm going to be sending all of the Kubernetes metrics to our hosted Graphite platform. So if you want to follow along with this video and you don't already have a hosted Graphite account, just follow the link in the description and you can start a 14-day free trial. Okay, so for this example, I'm using Kustomize, which is a tool that's already built into kubectl. Basically, we're going to manage the Daemonset deployment with a customization.yaml file, which contains a configuration of several other YAML files. So I'm going to briefly describe each file in the manifest, but we also have a public GitHub repo linked in the description that you can just clone, and it contains all of the necessary files for the deployment. Alright, so what we have is a project directory for this named Telegraf Daemonset. Inside the directory is a file named customization.yaml, which is the manifest, and then another directory called resources, which contains all the files that customization is going to deploy. So first we can look at the resources directory and check out all the YAML files within. First there's the config.yaml file. This is where the Telegraf configuration is defined, and you can see we included the default plugins for performance monitoring like CPU, disk, memory, system. Then you can see the Graphite output plugin. This is where our Carbon endpoint is defined at port 2003, as well as the metric prefix. With hosted Graphite, you have to prefix all your metrics with an account's API key. So I'll add the API key here and a prefix of Telegraf-K8 for easy searchability. Finally, you can see the Kubernetes plugins defined at the bottom here with the default URL and bearer token. This should work in most cases unless you have a custom token defined in your cluster, then you would just add that here. Okay, so next there's the daemonset.yaml file, which is a pretty standard template for a Daemonset deployment, and I'm going to just give it a unique name in the metadata line here, Telegraf-K8-example. Okay, then here there is the namespace.yaml file, which will just give this deployment the namespace of monitoring. Next we have the role binding and role YAML files. Again, just standard templates that will create a permission and attach them to our service account file, which is the last YAML file in this resources directory. Okay, so if we go back into the root of our project directory, we have the customization.yaml file, and this is basically the root configuration file for the Daemonset deployment, acting as a manifest, and it tells Kustomize how to generate the YAML resources. So now that we have all of our YAML files in place, we're ready to apply this configuration to our context. First, use the kubectl config get context command to see which context you're currently on, and then you'll set the context of the cluster you want to monitor by using the use context command. Alright, so now I have this pointing to our sandbox cluster, which is actually being hosted by a managed Kubernetes service called Linode. Now I can use the apply command with the dry run flag to see if Kustomize will apply the manifest correctly. And this output looks good, which means I don't have any syntax errors in any of my YAML files. So now I can apply the manifest for real. And it looks like it was applied correctly. So now when I run the get daemonsets command, I can see here that I have a new daemonset running with the namespace of monitoring and the name of Telegraf-K8-example. Alright, so when I navigate back to my hosted Graphite account, I can see that I have a bunch of new metrics. And if I go to the metrics search UI and search for Telegraf-K8.star, I can print a list of these metrics. If I glance over the list, I can see that metrics are being collected for each node and their respective pods, volumes, some networking stats, etc. And here, this is the official GitHub repo for the Kubernetes input plugin with a full breakdown of the metrics that are collected by Telegraf, so it's a bit easier to read. So now that I have live metrics being reported from my Kubernetes cluster, I can visualize them in our hosted Grafana. So I'll just create a new panel. Then I'll copy and paste one of the used _% metrics into the query field. Then I'll replace this part of the series with a wildcard to grab all matching metrics. Okay, now I'll just add a Graphite function called alias by node, which will just make the metric name a bit more readable up here. And then I'll just give the panel a title, and then update the unit of measurement to a percentage. And there you have it. I've got live data for used memory that is being sent from all 3 nodes in my sandbox cluster. To make things even easier, we have a pre-made dashboard named Kubernetes Overview in our dashboard library. You can just generate the dashboard in your account, and it offers a really good starting point to get you up and running quickly. All right, so now I can use the same memory metric to create an alert in the Graphite Alerts UI. So I'll add an alert, name it, add that same memory metric to the query field with the wildcard at index 1, and then I'll set the criteria. So maybe if the memory used on any of my nodes goes over 85% for 10 minutes, I want to be notified via email and on my Slack channel every 90 minutes. And Hosted Graphite also supports notification channels for PagerDuty, Microsoft Teams, OpsGenie, and a few others. All right, so this was a very basic example of how to create a custom dashboard and alert with my Graphite data, but the sky is really the limit here, and with a paid hosted Graphite account, you can create as many dashboards and alerts as you need. Okay, so as you can see, using hosted Graphite and Telegraf is a great way to collect, store, and visualize data from your Kubernetes cluster. And we also have direct integrations with other popular services like AWS, Azure, GCP, and Heroku. That way you can manage data from multiple platforms under a single pane of glass. We also have a transparent pricing structure, and we offer 24/7 support to help you get up and running quickly. So for more information, you can reach out to us directly at sales@MetricFire.com, or just start a new conversation using our in-app chat feature, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. All right, thanks so much for watching, and happy monitoring.